Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. Really, sincerely, I hope that you're all doing well. There's constantly a lot going on. I know I can't be the only one who has stuff like crazy stuff going on every single freaking day. So I assume many of you are also going through stuff, and I hope that you're doing well. Welcome back for another video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thank you for all of these subscribers out there. Thank you to everyone who leaves a comment every single day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Welcome to what I'm going to start calling Everyone's a Winner. I don't know if that's accurate, but it feels like the general trend of where we currently are. The last few days within the market, it feels like some kind of renewed energy has been like pumped back into the space. We have had, at this point, countless news stories about companies buying Bitcoin, upping their Bitcoin purchases. We've had a couple of days of very wealthy individuals being in the news, talking about how amazing and awesome and cool and fantastic Ethereum is. That's also been a huge, I don't want to say trend, but it typically happens every single cycle. So we see that as Ethereum rises in price, altcoins rise in price, and then there seems to be some kind of an aura that surrounds Ether and Ethereum, and we start getting predictions of Ethereum becoming the #1 coin, things about the flippening, where Ethereum's price is going to go. And I mean, to be fair, it is the most used blockchain on the planet, but it becomes quite intense after a while, the amount of attention that ends up being paid to Ethereum simply because it's rising in price as opposed to all of its metrics and what it does. One of the other news stories a few days ago was some analyst talking about how amazing Ethereum is and how used it is and how and I was like, we've known all of that. You're not saying anything new. You now are just actually finding out about this. So as it could have been assumed, this was incredibly popular news, and I'm sure you know exactly where it is going. It says Ethereum could eventually hit $1.5 million per token. Yes, as its next price gain could catch everyone off guard. This is according to EMJ Capital founder Eric Jackson. We have had some interesting price predictions before. As long as I've been in this space, we have never had anyone say out loud each Ether over $1 million per coin. 10,000 at this point is basically written in the stars. It kind of has to happen this cycle. The previous all-time high, 4,800. We're not, come on, 10,000's kind of there. I could see a 12, 13,000 Ether. We had an analyst, this must have been sometime when it was still cold outside, who said that they thought by 2029 we would see a $100,000 Ether. And I was like, okay, I can kind of see that. And I will say lightly, if we are having discussions of Bitcoin going from 100K to 200K, 500,000 to 1 million to 14 million to 28 million. I dare not say 100 million out loud, but you understand. It does then seem plausible that Ethereum would at some point hit 100K. If it goes to 100K, it makes sense at some point that it could go to 500,000 plus. If it's the most used chain and it's going to continue and everyone's salivating over this idea of Ethereum being the blockchain of choice for stablecoins, then potentially yes. But this is part of the mania that ends up happening with people talking about numbers like this. All it takes is for prices to go up a bit to hear that a couple of companies are like, oh, we also like Ethereum. And everyone goes off the rails. He said, and I quote, "Our analysis suggests the ETH network is underpriced." What? The most used blockchain on the planet that still is not above 7,000. You think it's overpriced? I would have never guessed that. I would have never assumed that apparently, allegedly, this coin has 1,000 something coins on top of its network. It is the most used blockchain that's ever existed. We're talking about governments as well putting their stable coins on Ether, and you're talking about it's underpriced? I would have never assumed so. I just kind of assumed it was always going to be $1,000 forever. He said, Ethereum is quietly becoming the dominant rail system to transact in crypto with deflationary economics. I remember when people hated Ethereum. Do you remember that time? It wasn't that long ago. It was less than a decade. People would not stop talking about how bad Ether was. Out of nowhere, all these stablecoin bills, everyone has seemingly jumped on Ethereum as like the new thing that's going to like change life for all of us forever. No, we've known. We were well aware. It's just that when prices go up, that's when everyone else seems to actually care about it. It's already the dominant rail. I don't know what more people need. He said that the potential approval of Ether exchange traded funds that feature staking, we are currently, I believe there's multiple different companies who are still waiting to hear back from the SEC. As of late, recently, the US SEC once again delayed applications for ETH ETFs having the staking feature in them. I don't know why. No one knows why. Why is the Ripple payment lawsuit thing also still going on? Gigantic question mark in the sky. The only assuredness that I have that they're going to all pass is namely because of BlackRock. I don't think that BlackRock is going to get denied. I would even put your tinfoil hats on. I would even go so far as to say BlackRock probably tells the SEC to delay their approvals because they want extra time to be able to accumulate at a lower price. That makes a lot more sense to me. ETFs and the feature staking in the US and the use of blockchain by large financial companies could be a catalyst for and he says, and I quote, for a 10-bagger plus move in the cards over the coming years, meaning its value will increase tenfold. That also seems completely believable. Hold on, wait, I want to say something. Somewhere on the planet it's gonna rain. Wait, hold on, have one more. One of you listening to this right now, at some point today is gonna have dinner. I don't know if it's going to happen, but, you know, just let's see. Of course it's going to happen. Like, what do you... The US SEC Commission allowed the launch of Ether ETFs in July. Has it been that long? Oh, gosh. In July of 2024, I remember... Do you remember Michael Saylor 3 days before, if you weren't here, 3 days before it launched, Michael Saylor said confidently, the United States will never, ever approve an Ethereum ETF. And everyone was like, oh, man. And then it got approved. And he was like, well, Ether's not that bad. And I was like, uh-huh. And analysts speculate that the regulator will approve ETH products that include staking this year. Just do it. I'm tired. I'm so exhausted of hearing about that something might potentially one day take place if we... Please just do it. But I know for a fact the SEC does these delays because it shows power. It's the same exact thing with other people in power. You wield it in unholy ways. The SEC knows, I mentioned this before, this isn't rocket science. If they hired 80 more people to work in those offices, there would be no delays. The SEC gets an application in November, and then in May they say, oh, we need more time. We do not know. And then in summer they go, oh, can we please have till October? Like that kind of thing. That's because they're talking about that they need more time to go over it. Can you not read? I hope all of you have university applications. If you are working inside the US SEC, you can't understand these words that you made the rules for. It's done because of power. You want to show that you have the power to be able to like open the door for these things, and you can also delay them if you so wish. It's just like, come on, dude. Like, we get it. Like, Jackson said that many wrongly believe ETH has priced in the approval of US ETFs as they've seen a big bust compared to Bitcoin ETFs. None of this has been priced in. We've been manipulated to blockchain and back at this point. There's no real questioning it. None of this is priced in. You don't get these people buying all these coins, all this Bitcoin, all this Ether, all this XRP, and you look at prices and go, that's been priced in. It hasn't been. Because even if you want to lie to yourself and say that it has, guess what happens tomorrow? Another company announces we're buying $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. The extra 180 companies who came before it. There's a news article. We just bought 3 million of Bitcoin. We just bought 1.8 million. So cool. You can say that that's been priced in. Now, what about the other stuff that's coming in the next 800 days? Especially if you've been watching the recent videos with these dramatically historic inflows for all of these ETFs. I think recently, wasn't it like 700 or something like that? $700 million in one day for Ether inflows. And I'm like, yeah, it's been priced in. Well, keep telling me that as that it keeps going up. To date, US spot Bitcoin ETFs have recorded $6.9 billion in volume compared to $1.4 billion in volume for Ether. That's still $1 billion. Like, what are you talking about? And also, that's daily. I think BlackRock alone, aren't they now holding $75 billion worth of Bitcoin or something like that? So this is like daily volume. He said, and I do quote, the real catalyst is still ahead. Staking approval expected by October. Once ETH becomes a productive staked asset within an ETF wrapper, it's no longer just digital oil. Why are people calling it that? It's an institutional grade yield product, end quote. Do you remember we also had that recently? Someone mentioned Bitcoin and Ether as digital gold and digital oil. Can we not do that? Can we not? Things don't have to be other things. It's kind of like Hester Pierce doesn't have to be crypto mom. She can simply just be Hester Pierce. Can Bitcoin just be Bitcoin? And I mean, even if you want to give it the title of like digital gold, that's also fine. Ether doesn't have to now become oil. That's not why. Like, what are you talking about? First of all, petrol is also like rapidly diminishing and disappearing around the world. Why would I honestly don't understand the mindset behind that. So yeah, we are witnessing some some type of a general price enthusiasm renaissance in a multitude of ways. The price predictions for Ether are getting, I don't want to say insane. I think they're pretty well matched. I think 1.5 million is a little bit intense, but I do think we are going to see a $15,000 Ether at some point. I think we're moving to a $500,000 Bitcoin. I think a number of what I think the analysts are also waiting for is to see if they're also correct. Like, think about it. I think a lot of them are actually waiting to see if the numbers that they've been mentioning actually end up coming true. But as I always say, we keep getting nonstop really good news within this space. We are no longer just hearing from one company who's like slightly winking at crypto. It's hundreds of companies who've announced openly that they're buying Bitcoin. We have almost a dozen who are openly buying XRP. We recently had this month, I think it was 3 companies who announced they're making some kind of an Ethereum treasury reserve and they want all the Ether. The ETFs are buying hundreds of millions of dollars daily or weekly, non-stoppally. I think our market's going to do just fine. I think that is going to do it for this video. I hope that you've all enjoyed. I hope you're all having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.